Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Alderman Lee in the 11th Ward office. It is Tuesday, not Monday, September 2nd, and we are here for a community meeting that we're going to have here with People's Gas and some folks from the EPA about a cleanup project that they want to start at the former South Station manufactured gas plant that is at Troop and Eleanor. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick round of introductions of all of the folks that are here, who they are, what role they play. We've got some people online as well. For those that are in the room, you have hard copies of the presentation. For those of you that are on the Zoom, I will post the deck in the next newsletter, so you have access to that as well. This is being recorded, and we'll post this to the 11th Ward YouTube channel. What we'll do is we'll do introductions, we'll go through the presentation, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. There are some folks that are joining us virtually as well that are part of the team, but why don't I start over here, and I'll just move the camera over here if that's okay.
Sure.
Hold on a second. Let me just change the view on this layout. There. Now I can show who's speaking. There we go.
Hi, Francisco Lacio with Government Affairs with People's Gas.
And Matt Hildreth, the project manager for this remediation project for People's Gas.
Didn't turn out the way I wanted to at all. Okay, over here.
Patrick Kenny, remediation manager for People's Gas.
Okay, and then Patrick, do you know who we have online with us?
So I'll mix up their last names, but they're on. So we have Rachel and Trisha from our corporate communications team is joining us virtually, also from People's Gas. And I think we can also introduce, at least virtually, Lauren Bumba from U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is on the line as well.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Can you unmute yourself just so I know that your sound is working in case we've got questions, as I'm sure they'll come up.
Yes, everything seems to be working all right. And hi, I'm Lauren Bumba. I am the project manager for EPA for the People's Gas site.
Lauren, can you hear us?
I can.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, this is the one thing I did not. Can you guys online, can someone say something so we can test out our sound? I apologize. I thought we checked all this out before we started.
This is Kristen, and I could hear what she was just saying.
Can you guys hear us?
Yes, I could hear you.
Oh, now we're good. Okay, my apologies. Okay, and with that, I'm going to shrink this down and we can get into the presentation. All right. Here we go. Matt, you're on.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so thanks for the invitation to have this meeting, Alderman Lee and Alderwoman Lee, pardon me, and thanks for attending, folks. It's good to see interest, even on fairly short notice here. So we'll be talking about, and I'll get into how it's named this, but the former South Station manufactured gas plant environmental remediation or environmental cleanup project is what we'll be talking about here. As I said, so my name is Matt Hildreth. I'm with People's Gas. I've been here about a year, but I'm the project manager within the environmental cleanup team that's focused on this site, and we'll be running this along with our consultants and contractors. So by way of an agenda, we'll give a little bit of an introduction, try to just orient people to the location of this site and what it looks like, what we're talking about. I'll give a very short one slide kind of primer on what is a manufactured gas plant, in case you're curious. Talk a little bit about the property history, some of the prior cleanup that was done there, and then try to focus on the very basics of the proposed cleanup plan, with an emphasis really in this forum on, if you live nearby, what might you notice or what concerns might you have, and what are we doing to address those, preemptively, which is quite a lot. So
Next slide.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so the property we're talking about, the address is 2730 South Eleanor, and so it's that blue hatched rectangle that's at the corner of Eleanor and Loomis, right? So in Bridgeport, not far from here. We'll be working on about a 3.7 acre site. And this is about half of a former 8 acre manufactured gas plant site. I'll show you the totality of that in a few minutes, but you can see next to us there to the southwest is labeled park number 571. And so that's a Chicago Park District park right now. It has some cool looking boathouses on it. That's adjacent along the river. And so just if you're not familiar with it, right, you've got the south branch of the Chicago River there. Loomis is the street that serves as a bridge crossing the river. 55, right, is just southeast of the property by a little bit. So that's where we're planning to work. This thing is currently vacant. It is a former manufactured gas plant site that since 1880 or something has been called the South Station MGP, or manufactured gas plant. And it is scheduled for a fairly significant phase of environmental cleanup starting here very soon, so starting this fall. Here's a pretty good look at what this looks like in sort of an oblique aerial view right now. So the site we're going to be working on is that, large kind of white to light gray rectangular property right along the river there. And so again, you see Loomis, the bridge crossing the river, just to the north of it. And you can get some look at the north end of those boathouses on the park adjacent to the southwest. Eleanor Street is the street that runs along kind of the long axis of our site and has houses on the opposite side. And so, right now, if you were to take a walk around this property, it's vacant, it's fenced, it's mostly a gravel surface at the moment. It has been for quite a long time. There was, up until 2020, there was a warehouse sitting on the eastern end of it. And so that's actually the concrete surface you see here was the building slab there for that warehouse that was taken down about 5 years ago. And from this view, the river would be on your right, Eleanor Street is on your left. Okay, so here's a topic someone could write a research paper on, but I'm going to try to give you the 1-minute version. If you're not familiar, why do we need to do an environmental cleanup, effort there at all? And the answer is that this was one of these manufactured gas plants that we often abbreviate as MGPs. And so this essentially, we're People's Gas, right? Which right now provides natural gas to customers for the city of Chicago. Prior to folks figuring out that you could economically, harvest natural gas the same way you do oil, there were technologies that allowed the creation of a flammable gas that could be used to heat homes, generate power, generate light, using coal or in some cases oil as the source and running them through kind of an early industrial process to do that. And so these were all over the US. I've looked up some numbers. Around the turn of the last century, we probably saw something like 1,000 of these around the year 1900 across the United States. And so almost any sizable city had some number of these MGP sites, and they tended to be dispersed throughout the city. So any large city is going to have, a decent number.
The Zoom chat is asking if you could please, they are watching half of me
Oh,
and they would
Sorry.
like the entirety, no, they want the entirety of that up there.
okay, thank you. I'm
not
sorry.
me. Sorry, I'm just getting texts from a lot of.
Nope, thank you. Sorry. My bad.
Like, we love seeing you, but. They
Thank
see me
you.
a lot at the
I,
park.
Didn't think
I
it's starting, that's
appreciate the team nature of this. Are we good now?
Thank you.
Sorry about that, guys.
Thanks.
Apologies.
Sure.
Are we still? Let me go back. Okay.
Yes, you're there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a period of, from the late 1800s throughout the 1930s, this was a major source of power and light. In some cases, it replaced whale oil and oil lamps and all kinds of other ways that you could, light the streets and light homes before that. So these, they were operating from the late 1800s until, maybe World War II at the latest. And so they operated in accordance with the rules and standards of the time. As you can imagine, this predated essentially all environmental rules in the US, right? And so, wastes often were disposed of either by burying them on site or reusing them some other way, but they really weren't regulated. And so these properties, often were in places that were desirable. They were kind of, throughout the city and often were, sold off and redeveloped later. And so a lot of other, companies that are responsible for these, 100 years later are doing the same thing we are now and working these through some sort of, regulatory cleanup process, which is what we've been doing at South Station. Okay, yeah, next slide. There we go. All right. So this is a view of, I think it was probably from Sanborn maps. So these historical fire insurance maps that are a handy way to look at what buildings were on a site going back a long way. And so when the manufactured gas plant facility was there, this is kind of the aerial view drawing of the structures that existed on the site. So you can see the site we're going to be cleaning up had quite a few on it. And then they continued onto that property that now is that adjacent park. And so I won't go into what all of these were, but you can see, we had quite a few structures there. The plant operated until about 1944, was decommissioned in 1961. Before long, really all the stuff above surface and by now certainly has been removed. And so anything remaining that hasn't been dealt with yet is a structure that's in the subsurface in some places. As I mentioned, we demolished a warehouse on the eastern portion of the property. And so right now we're working through a fairly long U.S. Environmental Protection Agency process to investigate and clean this up. And we're voluntarily moving forward with this remediation step right now that we have access to the eastern portion of the site where that warehouse used to be. Next slide. Okay. All right, so this gives you a little better look. We've rotated things a bit, so north is now off to kind of the top right of our slide instead of straight up. But there's our 2025 intended remediation site here on the the right part of the slide. Adjacent to it, you can see the entirety of that city park. And so, as I said, originally this was an 8-acre former MGP site that encompassed both of these parcels you see here. And back in the early 2000s, we remediated this thing that has become the city park. And that eventually was then turned over, the city of Chicago got possession of it, went to the park district and became a park. And we now have the opportunity to do the same remediation step on the eastern parcel so that we can at least pave the way for whatever the next step is going to be. Yeah, so, all right. So in broad strokes, our proposed cleanup plan out here, we've added a couple of kind of pink or red triangles here on the the eastern parcel. And those are the areas where the real, cleanup work is planned to be done here over the next year and a half. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done up close to Loomis, right, on the very sort of northeast part of the site. That's mostly because that access to that wasn't available until that warehouse was removed. So now that that's out of the way, we can do the work we know we need to do up there. There also is a little bit more we need to do in the western part of this parcel. And so, kind of that smaller rectangle in the lower left. Also, we'll see some remediation work going on here during this phase. This will be primarily two things. So excavation and offsite disposal is really the primary method of cleanup here, which means excavators removing soil, loading them into trucks and taking those off to landfills that are licensed to appropriately dispose of that material. So, that's some soil and that's some subsurface structures that were left behind to debris, if you will. In places where we can, we're also using a technology that lets us leave some material in place, especially deeper material, and solidify it where it is. And so this is something that's been done at many sites like this and many other sites that are impacted from other, industrial uses. And this has some advantages to the community. We do it when possible, partly because it minimizes truck traffic, right? So excavating and loading trucks and having those hauled off, it puts some trucks on the streets and can be disruptive. And so to the degree we can, where it's safe to do so, we're going to have folks doing essentially mixing a special grout with soils that are deeper at the site in some places to solidify those in place. Where we've backfilled, and actually in all the places we've done work, the final step is to backfill those areas with clean material. And the plan here is to have at least 10 feet of clean backfill We chose that depth because that's consistent with a possible residential end use. So that at least should not limit us to industrial commercial future uses if that's the way things go.
Chime in here. I think some of you have heard me say, and I've had conversations with People's Gas, and I've let folks know at the city and the Park District know that it would be my desire for the city and the Chicago Park District to purchase that land so that we can extend Park 571, potentially use part of that for a dog park as well. But that is, I've made that intention known. Representative Teresa Ma is also very supportive of that effort as well. So, you know, that's definitely in the conversation. So I wanted to make sure I said that publicly to all of you as well.
Mhm. Thanks. Yeah, so as I alluded to, this, the investigation process we've done to date and this remediation process is being completed, in conjunction with US EPA. Illinois EPA also has a team that's in the loop on everything we're doing. So they review every report we generate. They approved us to take these remediation actions, and they are going to be essentially overseeing things, along the way and approving what we're doing. And the schedule here, so we hope to start soon. Soon would be maybe a month from now at the very earliest. We're in the late stages of kind of contracting. And then it's about a 1.5-year process. It has to be fairly surgical. And so we expect it to go on through mid-2027. We should wrap this up. Next slide. Yeah. So to give you some sense of, what kind of activity you might expect to see out there if you walk past the site in the year to come. On the left side here, we've got, example of kind of the style and size of excavators that we'd expect to use. They're loading a dump truck. And so, certainly there's going to be a fair amount of this kind of activity going on. So trucks being loaded, excavators, digging up soil, and then eventually, placing clean backfill where they took that out. The middle photo here is just it's a batch plant. So I talked about this in place solidification process. And so that does one of the things they build or set up on site in order to do that are these batch plants, not too different from a very small version of like a cement plant, very small, but a way to mix things on site, not have to haul all of that in. They can make this grout on site. So you might see some of these kind of small silo-y things sticking up on the site. And then one other activity that I know my contractors said, hey, make sure they know this is happening so they're not alarmed. There's a lot of, you can see, the site is adjacent to the river on one long side. It's also adjacent to a bridge on another side. And so the degree to which we have to be very careful that we put in, we call them earth retention systems. So sheet pile walls and other things to make it so that things don't collapse when we start to do the excavation we need to do. So that allows us to reach the depths we need to safely, keeps workers safe, and it keeps the adjoining infrastructure safe too, right? So it keeps sidewalks and roadways and bridges and the river edge safe and unimpacted by our work structurally. And so to do that, one of the things that happens is they drive in sheet pile. So big steel pieces that, when assembled, create a wall that prevents soil from collapsing. And so sheet pile installation, which can be a little bit loud when it's happening, will be going on during a few phases of the project. This is always done during the day. We're working within the confines of the Chicago ordinance for work near residential properties, so 8 to 5. But these are kind of 3 activities that at any given point you might notice on the site. Okay, so as with, I think, any construction project, the activities going on here may generate a few things you'll notice, right? And so they may generate noticeable noise. You may notice truck traffic on the days when we really are excavating soil and hauling off to the landfill. It's unavoidable that we have dump trucks that do have to get into the site, get loaded, and then head out to go to the landfill, and also the ones bringing in clean fill. It's possible that dust is created, and it's possible that odor is noticeable. We've done this many times. Our consultants and contractors are partners with us who have been through, dozens of these. It's specifically manufactured gas plant sites in Chicago. They're really experts. And then also our regulatory partners have a lot of rules in place, right, for things we need to do preemptively to mitigate any of these things that might be a concern to the neighbors. And so one of those, so truck traffic, traffic controls are in place. There's a whole traffic management plan that's published that goes along with this. Streets and sidewalks are clean to be sure that trucks aren't tracking material off the site, right? That's prevented. We'll have 24-hour security when this is going on. The perimeter fence will remain, so no one's walking in there when they shouldn't. We also are going to take the step of, we're sensitive to the fact that Eleanor has houses on the opposite side. That just is the way it is, and we don't want them to be any more inconvenienced than they have to be. And so we will, as much as possible, have trucks actually. Dump trucks tend to show up all at once, even if you don't ask them to, we found. And so when this occurs, we are going to try to stage them across the river in an area that's industrial and already has a lot of truck traffic going on. They'll hang out there until someone on the site radios them and say, okay, we're ready for one more truck. We're ready for one more truck. So we can take other steps like that, as things develop, but that's one we wanted to just start doing right away.
Yeah, anything to not have trucks idling.
Loomis then,
Yes,
but so the staging, okay.
Well, yeah, we'd have to use Loomis to get back.
on
but,
the other side
yeah,
of Loomis,
right. Yeah.
Like the west side of Loomis.
So
into Pilsen, I think, right
The
towards
Pilsen,
Cermak.
yeah.
yeah, across the river to the northwest.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Have you thought about the impact on like bike traffic? Cause there's
Yeah.
unprotected bike lane on that stretch.
We will. So yeah, and the traffic management plan is pretty comprehensive. So we really require them to take a look at everywhere truck traffic is happening and get a look at that on the ground before we make our plan. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll add that to my notes of like when they're finalizing that work, they should take a look at that and be sure they're taking it into account. Yeah.
Is there opportunity to barge some of the soils and stuff like that away instead of trucks there? But have you guys looked into that?
We haven't. For this one, I don't know that the volumes and the speed at which we can excavate makes it economical or make a lot of sense. A barge would sit there for a long time with stuff piling up on it. And so I know that's one thing. This site is a little more surgical than some of its size because there are so many, the bridge and the river being right there and working primarily in that eastern corner. We have to we won't be cranking out enormous volumes like you might be able to at a really wide open site where a barge might make sense. So I know that was taken into account. I don't know the full evaluation, but yeah. And we might, I don't know, it would be okay to put off questions until the end. I'm just a couple of slides from the.
Sure. Answer their questions.
No,
Great.
we can. Yeah, go ahead if it's fresh in your mind.
Wait to the end. Wait to the end. It
Okay.
seems like that's what's
Okay.
requested.
Go ahead.
All right. And so dust monitoring is also something that takes place. So before work even starts at the site, there are air monitors that are set up along the fence line. So it's literally called fence line monitoring, and it's along the edge of the property. And so dust and noise monitoring actually both take place there, but air monitoring happens 24 hours a day and gives us real-time results. And so the team working out there are getting readouts of from these air monitoring devices constantly. And so if any of those reached a point where we were alerted that there was a problem, they could take action around it to mitigate that and stop it. So that's going on all the time. And there are engineering controls that can happen. Some of them are pretty simple. There are foams that can be deployed to knock down odor and vapors if needed. Simply wetting the soil often drops dust and that sort of thing. We're working in really dry conditions. So that's all part of the plan. And then sound. So equipment itself makes some noise. Certainly that sheet pile installation I mentioned can make some noise. But we will be monitoring noise with noise dosimeters so that there are instruments that can measure this, which we'll be using, and limiting those operation hours. So we really are planning also. This is really a 5-day-a-week operation. There may be times occasionally when we would work on a weekend to try to make up a day or something, but generally speaking, this is planned to be Monday through Friday, in 8 to 5. And frankly, often it would be wrapped up before then because of the time the landfill closes. Yeah. And if you don't mind,
Yeah.
This topic is one that generates a lot of questions. So if you had a question you just thought of, I'm happy to entertain it now at the end of this slide.
I have a bunch of questions, so I'll just wait to the end.
Okay. All right. And so Because People's Gas has done this before. We're committed to keeping the local community aware of our plans, before the project and throughout the project. And so we have a few steps here that will take place in order to do that. The first one, thank you, Alderman Lee. We'll have this community meeting, so folks who are close by have a chance to hear from us. We also, our corporate communications folks, I know are working on. We have a fact sheet. You might have seen a copy of it shared by the ward office. That will be mailed to folks who live close to the project site before things get going. Those who live very close also, don't be surprised if you get a door knock from a representative of People's Gas coming by to, talk to you about the project, hand out a flyer, see if you have any questions in person. I believe they'll have leave behinds too, so some sort of, sorry we missed you document that'll be there. And this will be on signs on the fence, but there's a designated phone number for questions throughout the project. So if questions come up as we go, you can call this number. Folks there will have access to some basic information. And if it's a more detailed question, it'll eventually come to one of us, and we can answer it in time. So I think that's everything I had. See anything else, but otherwise, yeah, I think we'd be happy to
Great.
talk about things. You have questions?
Why don't we start with your questions here and then I'll hop into the chat to see what folks have here.
Can I just-
Oh, sorry.
Something, do you mind, just for our corporate comms folks, if people could state their name, that would be helpful, just as I said, because we are doing communications and outreach, so if it's okay, the people state their name before their questions, then we're good. Thanks.
Okay. My name is Jillian, she, her pronouns. I've got 3 big questions. So first, who are you contracting and consulting with for this project? Because obviously this is outside of just People's Gas. So you've mentioned the EPA, but like what consulting firms and contracting firms are you working with?
Mm-hmm. So the lead on it, Burns and McDonnell, is the lead on it. So they're the designers, and they're the ones who will be running things at the site.
Okay, the second is like how, and this is probably for Alderman Lee also, is just what is the relationship to the complaint phone number or like the phone number available to like 211 and 311? Because like I'm not gonna remember an 877 number. So I'm just curious, like if there's the ability, because like I've worked across active sites before, 311 is usually what people tell you to call. It works to some degree, but I would just for like ease.
Yeah, so
to have that.
thanks for flagging that, and I can make sure that we discuss with OAMC, the people who are picking up 311 calls that we get, that they include a designation, and that those specific inquiries get routed to my office and to this team here.
Well, and then what is the role of the Department of Public Health in this? Because the city has a history of doing this, where the environmental damage is done to neighbors and then we're back, like we're dealing with it in real time. So like, and not that the Department of Public Health does a great job at it, but like where are they in this effort?
Do you guys want to address this piece of it?
So we go through a really in-depth city permitting process, as you can expect. It's primarily focused on the thing that takes the longest is structurally clearing that we're safely working around everything that's in the subsurface in that space. And there's geotechnical engineering review and all of that. But that, as I understand it, then also notifies, for example, DPH about a project that's happening. And so it should be in front of them. I can't say, yeah, I haven't had a lot of discussions with DPH directly yet, but they are a part of that process.
So that was that part of the permitting process?
I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
Something that they would have to review as well.
So I will get further clarity for you, Jillian. I'll have that as a follow-up question here. My understanding is that they're not issue permits without the right people looking through it, but obviously they're not sitting in the room today, so we'll make sure that, if there are more specific questions for CDPH, I'll make sure we can get those answered, and happy to bring them back here, or grab them on a Zoom or something to make sure that we've got concerns answered.
And then my last one is what is like the reasonable timeline from like a phone call, like to the number to like getting some sort of return or response?
Yeah, I mean, these are going to be a high priority thing. I don't know, Patrick,
Yeah,
when you've
so-
done this.
Yeah, so I've been involved in these
Mhm.
numerous projects. we have hired on a contractor or a vendor, Broidrick, and all they do is public communications. So they will be the ones who answer the phone, and it goes, the number you call, someone will either pick up or it'll be left on a voicemail, and they'll pick it up in the morning when they're back at work. And then generally the project team and the technical team work with them on providing a response within 24 to 48 hours, depending on, you know, what the concerns and what's being raised.
So I'll add to that. I don't have access to their phone line, so feel free to let the ward office know that you've placed a call. Let us know it's flagged for us, because otherwise we won't know. And then we can also, you know, make sure that we're helping to chase down the appropriate answers.
And I can, you know, Tricia is online. Trish, do you want to add to that? Again, this is your focus. Sure. You can unmute yourself.
Trisha, if you're
Yeah,
on,
this is Trish.
there you go. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Rachel. Yeah, I also work in corporate communications. Exactly what Patrick said is accurate. We have somebody that mans that phone number during typical work hours. If, you know, they're on a different call or things like that, the voicemail box is always an option. And as Patrick said, we typically get back to them within 24, 48 hours, depending on if we have to kind of hunt down more information, but typically it would be 24 to 48 hours.
Did you have any other?
So that's what it's usually with projects like this, they like publish the plan online. Is there somewhere where we can go find it?
Yeah, so the gory technical details are in the remedial action work plan, or RAWP, which EPA has responded to, and I think I just spoke with them today. It should be up. They're updating their page for this site as we speak, and so once that update is complete, you should be able to find that document there if you want.
And we'll find them on the EPA website.
Yeah.
Can you provide a link that I can include in the next edition of the newsletter? That way it's consolidated into one place and we can share it along with the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's all.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the Zoom chat. Who does the community report excessive noise, dust, smells issues to? There's a phone number. I'll drop it in the chat, but it will also be available on the deck that we shared on the presentation tonight. Will be posted in the next newsletter. So there is a toll-free number. And then what we discussed here was I will talk to 311 and let them know that this is happening and that any requests or complaints that come in specific to this location get routed appropriately so that I know about them, because if they don't flag it for the ward, then I might not get it. And if you are somebody who's phoning in a complaint, what I'd ask is that you also phone that into the 11th ward so that we know, so that we can keep track of those as well. How will P&G prevent dust, contaminated soil moving off-site to the north, river to the west, park to the south?
And it's like a kid's park too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
there's
they're like
two kid
little,
parks. Yeah.
Preschool. Don't forget.
yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, the preschool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that fence line monitoring it's right at the edge of our site, right? And
Will
so
there be publicly,
in all directions.
yeah, projects you can see that you're monitoring live? Is that gonna be possible?
I don't know for sure if it's live. I know
Or like
we,
end of day?
yeah, I have to check how quickly that's unless.
Yeah, so the data is all provided to US EPA, the
Yeah.
monthly deliverable as part of the project as it's ongoing. That's generally the first place for access to the data, once it's gone to US EPA. We have considered live access to the data, but there's a lot of processing of that data. Like a number is just a number, and what we submit to the US EPA has the targets and the action levels and some of the parameters, and then what we're tracking towards. So that's generally how it's operated, just for said, otherwise it's just numbers on this.
The EPH typically requires reporting every 15 minutes from the air monitoring, and you may or may not be aware that we have a massive demolition project going on, you know, line of sight from your project. So people are going to expect to see similar intervention methods like dust bosses and those air monitorings and all of that. I didn't see any mention of spraying.
actually asked that question. When I did the tour with them, actually, Kate, you would be proud of me. I did ask that question because this, for the limited number of demolitions that we've had in the ward thus far, I did know enough to ask that question, and spraying and foam, I think were the two tools that you mentioned. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, the folks working on site are their goal is to avoid those monitoring stations along the fence line detecting anything out of the ordinary, and so they're going to preemptively be to knock down dust wetting soils they're working with, which is a pretty simple way and pretty effective way of doing that. So that'll be going on as needed whenever conditions warrant.
Needed, you're not gonna have the sprayer going the whole time you're working, which is usually what happens.
Not yet. If they start working and they say things are extremely dusty, or we're getting those air monitoring lines, we're nimble enough to adjust to that and add full-time spraying going on. That certainly is a possibility.
And will you be drawing water from the river to do that?
I don't think so. I'll check on water source if you're interested.
Yeah, generally water comes from the hydrants and you get the permit through the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
And runoff will be your directive where.
Oh, yeah, there's an on-site water treatment system. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So any runoff happening on-site is collected, treated, and then discharged per permit.
Just while we're talking about monitoring and data, I haven't seen any mention of water monitoring or contamination, like you talked a bit about structural concerns with the riverbank, but are you worried at all about contamination that's gone into the water, and will you keep track of that?
There isn't monitoring of the river itself that goes with this, and partly because, to my knowledge, there isn't really a process reason to think that this activity would cause that. So no, we wouldn't be monitoring the river itself, but we're not discharging to it, right? We're treating water on site and discharging it, per permit to the system. Yeah, it's through MWRD, so MWRD will,
There were, this was like a 4-part question, so I started only asked the beginning part of it. No, that's okay. It was a great question. How many more public meetings will be held in this process? This is the only one that we currently have scheduled. Sorry, I have to let somebody else in. I'm happy to, with CDPH, bring them back. Let's see how we get through this first. As they said, People's Gas is trying to start this in about a month's time. They're still in the permitting process. Have you secured all of the permits yet? Do you know?
all of the permits is a big question. There are some that are secured as you go, but
doesn't sound like
we have enough to get
you've
started.
enough to get
We're at the
started,
end of contracting.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think currently no more public meetings scheduled. Open to, if we need to have another one, to doing that. We want to make sure that everybody understands what's happening, that concerns are allayed. I think net, this is a good thing that that this space is being remediated, because that takes us one step closer to potentially getting that for a park. But obviously, with as long a process as that is, and with all of the other things that are going on in and around the area with the demolition at the silos and just other construction work going on, and the residential areas that are in and around here, we do want to make sure that people are safe in all of that. Does PG have a cleanup plan for the Troop Street MGP site east of Loomis?
Right.
I'm just looking at the questions from the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to flip up
to
we don't
deck?
Quite show it, but if you
Okay.
if you flip to the deck, we could show it on the maps, and I can sort of indicate what that question is talking about.
Get back to the map.
Yeah.
You're asking me to do all of these things right
Yeah.
now. Here or this one?
Even do we have one that's even more
Go into the map itself, or
this one would work.
This one? Is
Yeah. Yeah, so that's right. So across Loomis Street to the northeast, you're seeing the very,
that's
southwestern edge of
Brandenburg.
the
Yeah.
Brandenburg property, right, which is part of the Troop manufactured gas plant. So there was manufactured gas plant activity and a little bit of infrastructure on that other side of Loomis as well. That one isn't as far along, I think it's fair to say.
Is that a better map for you?
Yeah, sure. So so that
it's over
area
here.
on the other side of Loomis is the Troop site, which is another one that's in our portfolio of sites that we're investigating and remediating. It isn't as far along in the investigate and then clean up cleanup process, as is South Station. South Station is a little bit further ahead. So I don't have any specific comments about a cleanup plan for Troop at this time, but it's in the US EPA Superfund Alternative Program.
It is, just to be clear about who's responsible for that lot, that is currently owned by Brandenburg, but People's Gas is responsible for the remediation, is that correct? Is that how it works?
That's right. Yeah.
And that's why for the property that we own, we're able to access and do that work
Yeah.
with Brandenburg. We're working with the US EPA to understand the site, and we've done a lot of investigation, and we do, semi-annual sampling and that, and then have to work with the property owners to figure out. what
Right.
connects.
And just in case anybody's wondering, I have not heard anything further from Brandenburg about what they're trying to do. At one point, it was on the market and then it was pulled, nothing at this point.
We all received notice at one point that it was gonna be demolished.
Yeah, and then
On our doors, everything.
Oh, really?
And then nothing. ever-
they were supposed
Well,
to
they
be.
didn't bring it,
Kevin.
Kevin, I own the restaurant across the street from this. property.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we got a notice on the door of the restaurant. I didn't get one at my house, a block and a half away. I don't think anybody. Yeah, no, because I think they kept it to within that block. And it was scheduled for this big demolition and everything. Then it never.
Yeah.
that was
My
a
understanding
Year
is
and a half, 2 years ago.
they were supposed to be moving to a facility in Indiana and I'd heard that something fell through, yeah. But we haven't really seen a whole lot of activity over there either.
Security.
Yeah, just the security vehicle that's in there. Okay, will info also be posted at Park 571 Fieldhouse? We'll make sure that we work with the team over at Park 571 to share this stuff, and we'll make sure they have copies as well. We go to,
I have a couple.
Yeah, go
questions.
ahead.
Sorry, I was
No, you're
late,
fine.
so I asked things that were already asked, forgive me. Are any of the vehicles or, equipment that's gonna be needed to do this going to be parked on Eleanor Street or Loomis Street?
We shouldn't be parking anything on Eleanor or Loomis for any period of time. Like, will a vehicle idle there briefly at some point? I'm sure, right? Just as a part of, getting things done. But no, we're not planning on leaving anything overnight or whatever on that street.
so Kevin, the other thing that you missed was that they're gonna have to truck some of this material away.
Yep.
But the idea is that they won't have trucks idling, like parked there waiting to pick stuff up. They're gonna stage the trucks across the river where it's more industrial. So they'll radio to the other site when a truck is ready to be filled, they'll radio them to come over. Because what we don't want, obviously, is like a line of dump trucks, lining the street, waiting to get filled to leave.
Right. The question about vehicles and equipment being left on the street it's a big one, not just, because of my business, but then also.
Residential parking.
Residential, but then when you throw in on the weekends and so forth. in these
Park
months,
activity.
The park activity gets very strong,
Mhm.
a lot of parking.
Sure.
So if we lose any parking, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I think it does come back to the traffic management plan. At the end of the day, safety is key, and we talked about biking and that, so. There may be, the idea is that we're not going to take many parking spaces. Now, if there's vehicles swinging in and that, it may be. Have to block it off for safety in the sense of to ensure that nobody, contacts a vehicle. It comes in contact, but we're going to try and do as minimal, kind of impacts to that street itself when it comes to parking and overnight storage.
Just gonna make
I
one quick.
understand that you said you'll be done by 5, hopefully earlier, which would be great, Monday through Friday. But the majority of the issues that I'm talking about are gonna occur on Saturdays and Sundays. When the park is really going and my business is open all day, Saturday and Sunday. So if they're over there breaking up, 2 tons of concrete.
They
11 o'clock in
you
the
want to
morning.
talk about the timing?
Sure, yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but our plan really is like. By plan, this is pretty much a Monday through Friday operations schedule. Now, we haven't forbidden them from working on the weekend occasionally, so if they need a Saturday here and there to try to make up schedule, we haven't told them they can't. But that's not, it isn't by no means intended to be 6 or 7 days a week. It's really intended to be 5. So it should be rare, I hope, that you have any impact on the weekend.
What's the notification on it then? Like if they're gonna work Saturday, we know that.
How much advance notice?
Yeah. It's already chaos.
Yeah, is there something that we can work out with the site manager, at least once they know that they're gonna need to work on a weekend, I'd like to be able to provide notification to the community when that's possible, because obviously that helps everybody to plan. And I realize that sometimes you're not gonna know this until like a Thursday afternoon or a Friday morning. You know, you're hearing everybody here, you know, what the concerns are. I would also say that, you know, I would anticipate that given budget constraints, no one's gonna wanna pay overtime to anybody to work a weekend, so it's gonna be in everybody's best interest to keep this to the 9 to 5. I will say that likely from a permitting perspective, if they'll have permits to have equipment on the street, but those generally are from whatever their operating hours are. So it would be like, I don't know, 7 in the morning till like 5 in the evening or 4 in the afternoon or something like that. And then the parking goes back to whoever wants to park over there. I don't think that there's a way. Actually, I think we'll work with CDOT to make sure that when we have that the no parking really is limited to Mondays through Fridays, and if you need to be there on the weekend, then that's also a way for us to make sure that we get as much notice as possible. Yeah, I think that's
Will the workers have someplace to park, or will they be parking on the street?
Yeah, so we'll have to work on that so that they don't gobble up all the Eleanor parking, is what you're thinking.
Brandenburg is sitting there completely.
That was to say,
with a
the
giant
obvious
empty
thing to
parking
do would
lot.
actually be to see if you could get permission to
See how it's-
bought it.
We have asked them, and so far that hasn't turned out to be
Because
fruitful.
they said no, or they haven't replied.
I believe they said no.
I'll take a shot at them too.
Colleen, I live on Eleanor as well. Concerned too about the traffic overflow from the car repair business. They overflow onto Eleanor Street during the weekdays, something to 9.
This will keep them from overflowing. We'll get parking enforcement out there a lot more. That's a whole other issue. That could be a whole other meeting, which I'm happy to talk about that as well. Let me just go back to, she had a question here, and then you, Kate, and then we'll go back to the chat.
Yeah, I'm Hannah, she, her pronouns. You mentioned a couple times the traffic management plan. I was wondering if that's already published, and if so, if that can be sent out along with like the follow-up for this, or if that's going to be published soon.
Yeah, so that's trying to remember if it's built into the RAWP, Patrick, already, or if it's generated in the early.
I think this like type of feedback and these type of things, so I would say up until we start the work, or like prior to a week or two before, I think all this feedback helps kind of fine tune that traffic management plan. So again, we can work with the other person's office to get, like, once it's finalized, so that it can be in your newsletter, things like that. And definitely understand that it's one of the biggest,
Got it. So it's not published, like there's not like an iteration of it
I
that's public
think
yet?
there's a couple of drafts that might be part of the permitting with the city, permit request, but as I said, this kind of feedback is important before we.
So don't consider that final. If it is part of the application and we are provided a link to it, you can see whatever they've got so far. Kate, and then I'm gonna go back to,
question
okay,
as well.
Go ahead.
okay, good.
So Tara Hoffman, I run a rowing team for breast cancer survivors. And I've learned a lot already, so thank you. This sounds like this is going to impact the rest of our 2025 season, which runs into October, but also our 2026 season and 2027 season. So there's been a lot of information that helps me plan already. The key for me is going to be when it's safe for our athletes to be in the area on the water practicing. There's already a number of things that my organization and my coaches are tracking. Water quality, weather, so that dust and the air quality is going to be key. And I've got a lot of real-time tools that I can use to track water quality and air quality. So anything that we can add to our toolkit so that we can see if physical activity in the area is safe, not just for the general population, but for individuals with potentially compromised immune systems.
So as a follow-up for me, and my assumption, and we'll make sure, is that I'm gonna make a statement that all CDPH regulations for air quality monitoring are followed on this site. I don't have anybody from CDPH here. I apologize for not having them here, but we're gonna get those answers. If that is the standard, that's the standard that will be met. When we talked about it initially, the air quality monitors go off, everything has to stop, right? All operations have to stop. They have to address it. Then the air quality has to be at a level where they can start working again. And if it's not, then they've got to work to address that. We'll figure out what the information sharing is like and how that happens. That's an outstanding question here that I've already written down. So we'll make sure that we get that answered. Tara, did you have anything else?
That was the biggie.
Okay.
I mean, it all impacts us, right? Like
Yeah, for
parking.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Matt, if I recall, we do have air monitors on the fence line along the riverside as well, correct?
Yeah.
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 So if that's even, we're
Yeah,
monitoring.
that hasn't been excluded, right? Yeah, so that side is also monitored.
Thank you.
Right.
So it'll be all along the perimeter of
Yeah,
the-
all
of the
four
site,
sides,
all
right,
four
not
sides of the
just
site.
three.
So on the riverside as well.
That's true.
And you mentioned no barge. Sorry, I did have another one.
Yeah.
Will there be any storage or equipment or transport on the water that would impact other water traffic?
None. Yeah, none planned. No.
Okay.
Okay. You had a question?
I do have some questions, a couple of questions, and hopefully they're quick. There are some mature trees on the riverside as well as on the sidewalk side, and I'm just wondering if part of the plan is a tree protection zone to ensure that those trees don't die with all of the excavation that's gonna happen. And along with that, is all the concrete gonna be removed or just those two pink square rectangle shapes? And is the rest gonna be left as concrete? Look like it's concrete now?
Yeah. So areas outside of those pink rectangles aren't being disturbed. So what's there now will be there when we're done with this.
And then the pink areas will be just soil.
They'll be backfilled to grade with crushed rock. I mean, they'll be gravel as they are now, or the areas that were concrete will be gravel at the end of the process. Yeah.
And then the tree question. Sorry, I put two questions.
The tree question, I don't know offhand. Let me take that to my team. Yeah.
Is
That's a
it
good.
about putting in like those sheets to protect the soil? from
Yeah.
It's like
eroding
where do
into?
those go? Yeah.
Yeah, so there
Sure.
has to be a certain amount of feet before you put in those sheets so that you're not killing the roots of those mature trees at all.
Sure. Makes sense.
And then, am I correct that you were saying that the EPA is still responding to your proposal, or I don't know what it's called, a proposal or what, and that the record of decision hasn't been given?
So this is getting into some technicalities of the EPA process, right? The Superfund alternative process. But the short answer is that we're doing this under a thing called early action, where with EPA's permission, we can take a remedial action ahead of the ROD, right? The record of decision step that you were talking about, which takes a very long time to get to reach the ROD, it's a long ways out. And so we made a case probably starting 2 years ago to EPA to say, hey, we see an opportunity here. We could do some remedial action here on this parcel if you would allow us. And they granted that.
And they're overseeing this whole thing and all of that process is in.
Yes.
Hi, Matt. Hopefully you can hear me all right. This is
Somebody from
Lauren.
EPA on the line.
There's Lauren Harlan.
Hi, yeah, I'm Lauren with EPA. Sorry, I don't think my intro went through earlier for the group, but yes, we are conducting oversight of this action, and this is just one smaller piece of the larger Superfund process at this site. So once this work is completed addressing soil, we will be requiring People's Gas to continue the Superfund process through the record of decision and to address any other media like groundwater or surface water that may still require action after this is completed.
Can you say more about how that works?
Lauren, did you hear that? There was a question in the room. Can you say more about how that works?
Yes, thank you for repeating the question. So the Superfund process is designed to be very thorough in terms of each step in the process, kind of has certain milestones. And I think you were hitting on one of them being the record of decision. So for this site, we're a little bit earlier in the process before the record of decision. And we're in what is called the RIFS, Remedial Investigation and Feasibility Study. No, that's a lot, but remedial investigation is looking at what type of contamination is there. Feasibility study is looking at how to clean it up. So once this is complete, we will be taking kind of a look at what's left at the site in terms of sampling data, and then looking at different cleanup alternatives to address the site as a whole.
Are those preliminary documents available on the EPA website?
Are the preliminary documents available on the EPA website?
So there is a remedial investigation available on the EPA website. The feasibility study has not yet been completed, but once it is completed, we will be publishing that as well as a proposed plan for the cleanup on our website as well.
Lauren, if you can, this is Alderman Lee, if you can provide a link to where any of the documentation for this site would be located, I'd be happy to share that so that community members can go peruse.
Yeah.
Yes, I put it in the chat and I will send you a follow-up message
Perfect.
afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, hold on there. You have an EPA question? Sure, go ahead.
So I'm just curious how people's gas, how beholden you are to these initial things. I know the administration in terms of the federal EPA is going for more of a speed versus quality in terms of Superfund cleanup. So it's like, let's say the burden of what is quality diminishes over the next year or something of process. Are you beholden to personal standards as a company or to an original plan? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I can take that. It's a good question. At the end of the day, People's Gas is a regulated utility, and the dollars we spend as part of this cleanup to address some of our legacy is dollars that our ratepayers is paying. So when we go to do these cleanups, we want to be as comprehensive and as complete as we can be, so that we don't have to come back to the sites, because it's just going to cost our ratepayers more money in the future. So whatever goes on with the administration, at the end of the day, I've been working with Lauren for 5 years now. We've been doing this cleanup in Chicago for that amount of time. And as I said, our focus, and we're following US EPA regulations. We're working under IEPA's requirements. We're thinking about Matt hit on the 10-foot. That's a reason so that we don't go down to 3 foot and then have to come back in 5 years' time because the city has decided to rezone that area, and now we have to go back in because it's now residential or a park or whatever it might be in the future. So that would be the general approach.
Any other EPA questions while we're on the topic?
Maybe.
Okay.
I have some questions about there's just a process that EPA might, be part of. And so first one I wanted to is about the site. So you've got your rectangle here that cites you're going up to the river edge and these two little ears, I guess, sticking up from there. So one of our long-term, by the way, hi, I'm Kate. I'm the managing director of McKinley Park Development Council, and in a separate conversation, would love to sit down with you and show you some community-driven infrastructure plans for this site, including bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure on the site under Chicago's River Design Guidelines. And that plan is currently, the city planning department is currently developing an implementation plan for our plan. So it's something I want to make sure that you're aware of. As you do this work, you'll want to maybe set some things up for future compliance with that design and with those guidelines, including things like where does your fence go, which impacts the question about the ears here, because you do have an existing fence line there, and what is going to happen with that, and how will that be restored if you have to take it down to do this work.
So I don't know the details right off the cuff as we sit here of those 2 years fence.
But it's basically up where the concrete ends and where the trees start is basically where that fence is.
Sure.
And that
I
you can
can't
see
zoom. You're talking about back here, right, Kate?
Yeah, because you can see, this is a great picture, because you can see when the existing park was built out, that they put that sidewalk straight into the future setback required under city ordinance. So clearly it was planned for the lots to be reunited in the future, and we're really excited that everybody here seems to be thinking that way, which is good. But now we have to deal with what do you how do you lay groundwork for how to actually make it happen, which is of great concern to our community. It's very important, and we really do want to see this ultimately for public use with community-driven amenities, and whether that's with the park district or with the land trust or however it happens, that is the goal. So just thinking about you know, how do we set that up for the future access that will be needed there?
Sure. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
probably a nitty-gritty detailed discussion we
Okay.
could have later. Like, I think we'd be open to it. Yeah, and we're talking with other entities too about, you know, so we sit here and I say, look, you know, my job certainly, and even Patrick's job, you know, really is to like do this remediation step, right? Clean it up so that the next things can happen. And in doing that, like, there are going to be some other developers, whether they're Park District or others, who are going to take some steps later. If we can do something that doesn't cost a lot more right now that we don't have the budget for, and our budgets, as Patrick mentioned, are very locked in, like we're highly regulated, right? So when we set aside a budget for something, we don't have a ton of flexibility. But if we can do something right now that, you know, we all agree, like, oh, coming down the pike, if we do this, it's going to make things much harder later. And if we do it differently in a way that perhaps doesn't require any extra effort, but it's just different, it won't make things harder. We're not against that. It's a possible conversation. So I don't know the details of those two spots, but I think we probably could have a conversation.
Okay. And then does People's Gas have any particular timeline for what, it sounds like after listening to Lauren from EPA, that there was remediation work that you are doing now may not be the end of work required before the property could change hands. Do you guys have timelines in mind? Like, where's the thought process on that?
Yeah, we don't know for sure. We certainly, I think it's fair to say we have had parcels within large Superfund alternative sites in Illinois where we did something like this. It was an early action, and then there was a property transaction following that early action, even though the ROD and the very final sign off by EPA was still in the future. So that's possible. We don't know as we sit here right now, but that's not out of the question.
So it depends on what, once you're done with this phase of it, what the EPA's follow-up steps will be.
Right.
That will dictate whether or not any additional work has to be done. Am I right about
And
that?
that is a question about what kind of testing
Right.
happens after that, and if you're planning to leave portions of the concrete, are we just assuming that's okay? Do we need to worry about anything leaching from what's gonna be compounded with grout? Like, how does that work?
That's all part of that longer term process. Yeah. So until EPA is satisfied that all those questions have been answered, we're not at the end of the process, and we're still responsible for dealing with all those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's the material you're taking out going?
So it's going to which landfill? Waste management landfill. Oh, it's the main one. Patrick, do you have it on the tip of your tongue?
Aurora, Southwest, Aurora, correct, Southwest.
It's at you're toward Joliet.
Yeah, Joliet, sorry, that's it. The landfill out in Joliet, sorry.
Joliet.
The name of which I usually know, but it's not coming to mind at the second. Yeah.
And that's a waste management or our waste disposal contractor for the company. And we, again, we've completed this type of project on the north side. We've completed it out at Little Village, and all our material goes out there to that landfill. And there's so.
Okay. Are you guys communicating directly with Park District? Or is it more of a
No,
broader question?
that's through me mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then. Okay, ready to go.
I'll make introductions, Francisco, to the Park District IGA team, though. Like, you should have some contact with them as well.
And then just generally regarding communications, there are a number of community groups, many of which are sitting here tonight, that would be very interested in direct updates, because as much as we appreciate the efforts of the 11th Ward, you know, the staff is worn pretty thin, and it would be good to be able to talk directly. Is there a way that we can make that happen without running amok, even if it's a simple
Like
email
an
announcement
email.
that comes out at milestones or something, you
Yeah.
know, a human to talk to rather than the 800 number?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think we do, you know, this is a long-term project, and some of our projects we can be in and out in 6 months because of the complexities and the location of this site. It is going to take more time, so we will be working with our corporate comms on like regular updates so that people have a line of sight and okay, well, this has been completed, what's left, where are we? So yeah, we can definitely incorporate that and work with folks. And I know we have a list of folks who want to be part of the update, receive leaflets and that. So if there's more people that want to be added to that, or more entities that are, you know, involved in the community, we'll let the older person know.
And do you have all those materials translated?
We're working on that as well. We generally in Spanish, and I know we were just
Yeah,
talking
traditional
about
Chinese. Yeah.
Could you put Arabic on that list?
Okay.
There's a large
you know.
They're growing, yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot of the families are starting, we're talking about the nature play
Mhm.
space, which is right next to there,
Mhm.
so I want them to also be aware.
And I guess my last question was, we're pleased to hear that this is happening now but we got a lot of mixed information leading up to it, which is part of why we're so surprised about today's meeting, because we've been told it was gonna happen this year, and then it was gonna happen next year, and then it was gonna get pushed back to 2027, and then things were too weird at EPA and nobody, and so.
And I hadn't heard any of that information, Kate, so like this,
So
they came to me and that's when we had, and then I said, no, we have to have a community meeting, so.
Yeah, and so I was just wondering, just to clear the record, like, has your timeline changed, and if so, why?
Where were you getting that other information from?
Mostly through EPA, actually, through our friends at Open Lands and the communications with them regarding remediation.
So is this, Lauren, is that something that you can speak to?
Sure. So our timeline for the ROD has slightly changed. I think since our first discussions, I think originally we were talking 2027. I think now that this early action is moving forward, the ROD will likely be pushed back a little bit further to allow this to complete. But in terms of timeline for the early action, I think that's kind of been the missing piece in some of our conversations previously. And I think this has kind of moved up closer to, this year. And we just, kind of have worked with People's Gas to try to make sure that our timelines are in agreement here. But, we definitely are not opposed to the work happening sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I want to go back to the chat if I can. Just, Kevin, one more because everybody on the chat's been waiting.
Yeah, just traffic. How many entrances and exits do you anticipate for the job site?
There are at least 2. There might be 3.
And so each one of those is gonna take 2 to 3 car lengths away.
Probably, right. If you imagine a truck turning in and having a safe space, that's probably right.
So we're looking at 6 to 10, 12 car lengths.
Would you have
And
all of those activated at the same time?
Not necessarily, right? 2 generally would. I think we want folks coming in one and exiting another.
Right,
Usually
one
for
point of
truck flow.
ingress, egress.
Right.
So
Yeah,
can
and
we-
trucking isn't happening all the time either. I guess I'll say that. Like by no means for a year and a half is there constant trucking every single day.
Well,
it does
but
happen.
the entrances and exits are not gonna go away. They're gonna be there the whole time. So what I'm suggesting, what I think we'd all like is if there is parking delineation signs that say, no parking 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And they're permanent, not slapped on a tree to be ripped off by somebody or taken away by the elements. So that people know they can't park here Monday through Friday 9 to 5, but once 5 o'clock hits, they know they can park.
I'll work
Also
with CDOT to see
maybe
if we can do that.
Parking signage on Eleanor going east of Loomis because it's so faded out and routed, you can't tell whether you can park there or not.
Yep, okay.
On the, particularly
Yeah,
on
one side of the street.
on the north side of the street.
Can I ask?
We'll do the whole lap around there to
Yeah, but
check
it
all
all
of the
needs
signs. Yeah, if it needs
If we can
updating.
get specific signs to these entrances and exits, I think that would help
Then
the
it's more,
communication.
then it's certainty rather.
Right,
it's certain.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, everybody knows, yep,
Yeah.
Because at any moment, you might need an entrance or an exit.
right.
So if there's cars there. you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, no, good point.
Thanks for that, Kevin. Hannah, go
There's
ahead.
also a chunk of land at the end next to Chupaquara, the.
Yeah.
The auto shop in question.
Mhm.
There's a piece of land there that's empty, and there's also land behind that that's completely empty. That can be used for parking, staging. I think.
We'll
the
figure out
owner's
who
the
owns it.
same, Next to Bridgeport Steel.
Okay,
I think the gentleman who owns the detailing shop on the corner of Cermak and Loomis owns that chunk of land next to Bridgeport Steel that's completely empty.
we can take a look at that. See if we can't put you.
He's always willing to rent it
You'll
out.
definitely.
Yeah, the auto shop could be using that,
Yeah.
for taking up parking spots and junk.
Yeah.
That's another meeting.
Separate meeting.
Yeah.
Hannah, go ahead with yours, and I haven't forgotten about you on the chat.
Yeah, super quick, traffic related question. Will there be estimates for like truck volume
That was one of the
included
questions
in,
too.
in the traffic management plan or elsewhere published?
I haven't looked at the details of the traffic management plan for a little while and it's refined. I can give you verbally. So at this site, again, we have some remediation sites that are totally wide open and they can dig and haul really fast. That's not really the case here. So I think when I asked our consultants, hey, what do you think is the sort of the maximum number of trucks that might run through there on a busy day when we have a lot of access to the dirt? It's probably something like 10 to 13 trucks making 3 trips.
Okay.
Just to give you a sense of scale, that's about what we could do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get back to the chat here. There was mention of the future for the site. I understand the Alderwoman Lee is pushing for more parkland. How will the final determination of the space occur? I think we're gonna have lots of conversations about that. I think we're some ways off. I have my site sort of set on a natural expansion of this park. I would like to see it be public space, not developed for housing, would be my preference. So I'll put that out there, but as you know with me, I'm sure I'll have a community meeting or 2 or 3 about the subject. So no final determination has been made. I've put some feelers out to, my colleagues at other branches of government to say, hey, what would you think about this? And I have not talked to anybody who disagrees that that would be a good use for that site if we're able to acquire the land. Yes, Kate.
On that note, we're interested in doing some additional community engagement about what people would want to see in a future park right now. From prior engagement, we know that people want public boat storage, expanded docks to decrease conflict between fishers and boaters and the rowing crews, and also some kind of public gathering space, like maybe a pavilion. So put
That's
that
great.
out there, and then we'd be interested in collaborating on some other, maybe some visioning drawings.
For sure. Kristen L., are you still on? You can unmute for your question if you're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. So my name is Kristen Larson, and I am representing the Bridgeport Kid Playdates group. And I have more of my questions have been already asked. I just want to reiterate a couple of things of access to the data on the air quality. We have number of immunocompromised children in our group, as like the main one being asthma. And with those play spaces of Jackalick and the nature space that was just put in and opened earlier this year, which my kids personally frequent all the time. I have one kid who is going to be obsessed with watching this thing happen, and then one kid who's going to have an asthma attack. So if there's any possibility at all to have access to those air qualities numbers so that I can make that determination on whether we're going to the nature play space or Jackalick, that would be fantastic. And then somebody else asked that a notice be placed at the nature playground, but I would also like it to be put in at Jackalick as well.
Any problem putting those notices up? And I think we'll have a conversation about this issue of the real-time data being possibly available. And as Patrick mentioned, there are some challenges to it, right? Raw data is kind of tough.
Totally.
But I understand where you're coming from too. So we'll work on that.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions. Somebody else mentioned that having trucks being parked on Loomis, there's an unprotected bike lane on Loomis, and one of them is protected. And we use Loomis as a bike route for going back and forth from school, and other items to go throughout the city. And Loomis has been a great place for us because of the lack of a lane on Halsted going underneath the tracks anymore, because that was taken away because of the Amazon warehouse. So just wanted you to be conscious about the bike lanes on Loomis.
I'll talk to CDOT too about when we can get the other side protected like it is on the opposite. I don't understand why they only did it on one side. That didn't make sense to me, but I will take it up with CDOT, see what we can do to get that at a minimum as you're coming across the bridge towards Eleanor, so that that's a little bit more protected. I mean, if I have to prioritize, that's where I'll start, but it should match the other side of the street.
Because that's the only side that has the sidewalk also, is where there's a protected bike lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then because cars also like park, they shouldn't be parked there, I don't think. I mean, that gets into a different words that like, you know how that goes. I don't have to. I
It's a
see it 'cause I
liminal
drive it a lot.
space. There's,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. But
Um,
we want for the bikes coming across towards across Loomis towards the park to be safe, getting across. So I appreciate you flagging that, everybody on the bikes. Go ahead, Lauren. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
so
Kristen, you're not
that's
Lauren.
okay.
Kristen,
Yeah.
Ellen.
So my other two questions are, I feel like I've heard a few different dates, like a start date for later this month is hopefully like a fingers crossed situation. But once you do get started, I'm unclear on about the length of the project would be anticipated. Like what's the normal average length of time for this type of remediation?
Yeah, this one we anticipate to be about 1.5 years.
Okay.
1.5 years total length, yeah.
And as part of the remediation, is a repairing of the roads from the heavy use of trucks going to be implemented as well? Or is it just strictly to the site and not the roads from the use?
Yeah, so our contract with our consultant has a line in it that sets aside money to repair the roadway if there's damage, right? So I've done these where the roadway was perfectly okay afterwards, but we've also seen where there was damage done. And so, yeah, we have money in place to help deal with that if there is damage.
Who determines damage?
Probably a lot of people besides us. First it would be us. I mean, we have a desire to stay in the good graces of the city and the community and things like that. So yeah, so we would be taking a look at it toward the end of construction. And
Yeah, I think we generally do a pre-survey of the road quality, and then post-construction we'll resurvey it again, and then engaging with CDOT and the entities that are responsible for it.
I have every expectation that all of you who are in the area will also share with me any instances of any damages that you think to the road have been caused by any of this work that's going on. So Ward 11 at cityofchicago.org. You can send this to us. Please keep, I mean, and I think that's where you file a 311 as well, right? I think that's perfectly fine. We want to be able to document them. We'll share that with our folks here at P&G. Did you say you had one more, Kristen?
No, that is all for my questions, and I'm gonna hop off because I have to do bedtime. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Back to over here. We've got the EPA website. Regarding traffic, will the location reroute to have vehicles come down lock? I'm not sure I understand that question. But I don't believe that there's the only place that trucks will be coming to and from or through from Loomis onto Eleanor and then back onto Eleanor and out through Loomis or Archer at that point to get to the highway.
55.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Lock actually might be, I don't have it committed to memory. Lock might be the street across.
Lock is over here.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's down here.
that-
I'm directionally challenged when it comes to this side of the ward.
Other street in the vicinity.
Yeah, but the idea is that, and I believe, because this is what we talked about, I haven't looked at the traffic plan, but everything should be going in and out of just where that corridor is. They're trying to minimize the amount of flow into any residential areas. I didn't say anything inconsistent, did I?
No,
Okay.
that's our.
Okay. All right. Does that answer your question? I don't know who that iPhone 160. Hopefully we answered your question. Can't do that with a pen in my hand. What routes will the trucks be using to take debris away? So I think we just covered that. They're gonna come out, exit the site on Eleanor, go back around, either back across Loomis or Loomis to Archer to get to the highway from Archer. Eladio, hey Eladio, recommending a second meeting should be scheduled. There are a lot of community organizations, EJ groups, conservation groups who would want to be here if there had been more notice. Like I said, I'm happy to have another meeting. I see lots of folks are echoing that. We're gonna share all of this information. I think that what we want to be cognizant of is just sort of, the timelines that folks are trying to meet. And the issues that I think are still outstanding. I don't want there to be looming questions before they start work. I think they've answered quite a few of them already tonight. I'm happy to host another one and have CDPH on site to answer some of those questions, and we'll take some things away from this. I kind of want to keep the ball rolling, but what I'd like to do is to get a commitment, if we can, here, is that, you know, work's not going to start on this site without some advance notice. Because we don't have a hard start date at this point. So, you know, my ask is, you know, I'm looking for, you know, I'm trying to figure out, you wanted to start as early as October, I think, October or November. So I would say, you know, 3 to 4 weeks is what I would like to give the community notice to. And for some of the things that we're talking about in terms of signage, that gives the city time. If we're gonna ask CDOT to put up permanent signage, you know, as early as possible in this process, is that something that we can sort of agree on?
Yeah, we have a milestone in our contracting process that is coming up.
Okay.
And so the reason you probably haven't heard a designated start date from us yet is it hasn't quite hit. So once that hits, then we can lock in our contract. All the contractors can lock in. We will first visit the site on this date.
Okay.
And so once we have that, we can come to you, and that shouldn't be, you know, generally that's a month from that milestone date.
So
anyway.
then it feels like a month is a good time. I would rather have a month than 3 or 2 weeks. So a month is seems like a good time.
Yeah, and from our perspective of executing a project like this, it's better to start it going into the colder months. Because, you know, like less
use of the
people
park.
on the streets,
Yeah.
less traffic in the area, and then by the time springtime rolls around, it'll be a well-oiled machine, and as I said, you're kind of a bulk of a good portion of work has already been completed, so.
Can you go all winter, or like, does it get too cold for the equipment?
No, they'll
or-
winterize everything to keep active. Now, on we talked about potentially a Saturdays, it's kind of weather days that sometimes kind of push into a Saturday. But in general, they'll winterize all their water treatment plants, all that, and they'll keep operating with the idea that things continue on. It's a union project, so them guys will work and girls will work, or ladies will work all the time, anytime you give them, once they can get moving.
On that note, Nicole, we could talk, I'd be happy to offer one of our regular slots to the library to have our open community meeting, in September or October.
Well, we can coordinate that. That makes a lot of sense. And I'll make sure that we get somebody from CDPH and any other department, CDOT.
PA in person, I think would be good too.
Yeah, this was a shorter window. Okay, hold on one second. Let me just, because everybody's been waiting so patiently online. We'll get to all of the questions. Yeah, Lucy, I try to give everybody 2 weeks notice. We did have this out a couple weeks ago. I think it wasn't a flashy enough sort of thing to flag for everybody. 2 weeks is my standard for giving notification. So you can be assured we will provide notification through my newsletter and through our social media channels. Thank you, Igor. Let's see. As McKinley Park residents who's been following MPDC, the city's work to expand river access, I'm keenly interested and excited about this work and appreciate your willingness to keep in mind McKinley Park and MPDC. Thanks.
Can we also share, or can you share with Julia in the 12th ward? Because
Sure.
I'm also from McKinley Park, so we'd
Yeah.
love to know what's happening.
Yes, absolutely.
Use that.
We will make sure. She's my older buddy. We get along great. I will make sure that she's included in all of this as well.
And the newsletter, that would be really helpful if they could also help put it out.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know what cadence she does it in 12, but we send ours out every week. So, you know,
It's weekly.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I think it's Wednesday or Thursday, I can't remember.
Yeah. Ooh. We've got some stuff going on. Ours been going on a little bit later.
We're aware.
I didn't want to send it at 11 o'clock on Sunday night. I was like, let's just do it in the morning for Monday for this holiday weekend.
We'll take it.
Okay. I appreciate the fans. Okay, so we're through with the questions on the chat. Back to the room.
But it seems like based on what I've heard, people tell me if I'm wrong, the 2 sticking points are really around this traffic plan and like air
Air quality.
water quality. So it's like when those things are formed, what is the feedback loop or mechanism? And then also, plans are great, but we've all experienced how life can life. And so 3 months into this, the traffic might not be going according to plan. The air quality might not be showing up on monitors, but it is patently obvious using
Our
growers stuff. Yeah, like
our air
that we'd
filters.
be able to do, like determine that that is just not adequate nor sufficient. So I think what are the next steps? So we know we said that the traffic plan is coming. So with that, how do we provide feedback if we have any? And then what's the recourse for like the project is rolling and we might want to have additional suggestions. So that's kind of one branch. And the other is related to the air quality piece. I think that there needs to be a little bit more of a conversation if it, like the monitoring is going to happen once a month as required by EPA. We also have projects that give it every 15 minutes. So it's just like that feels like a big gap of 15 to a month.
But the difference, just to be really clear, if I understood right, it's not that they're only capturing it every month, it's that they're only sending it to EPA every
Right.
month.
No, I
And so
understand
they're-
that, but like, regardless, it'd be a month later.
Right.
When
Yeah.
you find out. So I
So-
think that's what I'm trying to get at. Of like
So
what
I've
the,
committed to bring CDPH to answer that question, and I can bring the city's Department of Environment in on that conversation as well. Again, all of the city has all manner of regulations that I'm not totally familiar with. I'm gonna let the experts, I'll bring the experts in the room to answer those questions. People's Gas has to comply with a lot of different regulations on this. The city is absolutely one of them. So we'll make sure that, those questions can be answered by people who are more well equipped to answer those questions.
On the traffic management plan, like, we do have that call-in number, so I do feel that once we get that out there, that's the whole idea, that when we distribute the plan, that number is there for people to give us a call and get direct feedback or provide direct comments. So I'll just bring it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Kevin?
Do you plan, and I'll explain why I'm gonna ask this question before you answer it. Do you plan on having a cleaning crew on site every day? And the reason I ask it is we've all lived through the remediation and construction of the park immediately to the
It's gonna create
west.
a lot of dust.
We lived through the demolition and reconstruction of the Loomis Street Bridge. And you're estimating 39 trucks in and out every day taking debris. What we've seen in the past is the streets filled with rubble, dirt, rocks, boulders that we've had to clean up ourselves before calling 311, calling the alderman's office can get someone out there to actually take care of it. Will you have someone on site every day trailing after those trucks and making sure that the streets aren't filled with debris?
Yeah, that's built into our plan and our contract with our contractor. Yeah, there's
Okay,
language all over the place. It says they'll have street sweeping capability, people checking to see if that's necessary.
Let you know.
call the number?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the best?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll need contact with them direct.
Everything's gonna go through that toll-free number. And again, after you call the toll-free number, please call me and let me know that you've made that call. Okay? Yes.
I'm Charna. This is a question for PG. You mentioned the technology that allows you to remediate while keeping some of the contaminated soil still in the ground. Is there a name for that?
It's in situ remediation.
So- Yeah, so I took some of those technical details off my first draft of the slides because people said that is too technical. But yeah, so it's often abbreviated ISS. So in situ, meaning in place, right? Stabilization or solidification. The two are kind of used interchangeably. Yeah, that's the technology that's
Thank you.
being used. Yeah.
And then regarding the air monitoring, is there, what thresholds will you be stopping work at in terms of particulate matter?
I don't have that number on the top of
Okay.
my head. There's an air monitoring plan that's extremely detailed. That's part of that RAWP, the remedial action work plan. And so once that's up via EPA's webpage, you could look that up there anytime.
And what exactly are you, like, what is actually in the ground? I mean, obviously, I know it's like leftovers from gasifying coal, like I got that,
Yeah.
but like, what is that?
It's campus, and yeah, it might be specific or technical.
Yeah,
but
so
we want that.
I'll try to answer this without going down a rabbit hole. And yeah, but I would say broadly speaking, it's the same, like I've been doing environmental cleanup and remediation and investigation for 20 some years in this area. And it's the same general suite of contaminants that we find if we're remediating most industrial sites or even an automotive shop. And so it's PAHs. That's from across. Those of you
what's a
who are
PAH?
interested, yeah.
Sorry,
So
that's
sure. So it's a group of chemicals that are the result of incomplete combustion. It's stuff that would be in asphalt, right? Asphalt contains a whole bunch of PAHs. It's a contaminant that if there's a diesel spill or a gas spill or something, you run into some of these. And then so it's a lot of those organic contaminants that are also coming from a whole bunch of other sources. There are a few inorganics, a few metals.
Okay, so then does that include VOCs too?
There are some, yeah, so the BTEX, so benzene, benzene, yeah, so things that are in gasoline and a whole bunch of fuels are also found there and part of our cleanup program.
And they would be part of the air monitoring program. There are certain constituents that are more volatile than others. So the BTEC or the benzene is often an indicator and is high legal.
Is there any lead in the soil? Any heavy metal?
There's lead in the soil everywhere in Chicago. Yeah. So there's some here.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the MGP process really added any lead. So we often are cleaning up lead, but it's not really from the MGP process.
I'm gonna go back and look at my questions to see if they were all asked yet.
And I actually have to leave.
Okay.
But if you guys need anything, please call me. Thank you.
Thanks, Francisco. Nope, you answered all of them. Is it gonna happen all year round? We work through the winter. That's great news. The number of anticipated trucks, Hannah already asked that. You already gave us contact information. So agreed, the two things that I think we'll dig deeper into the next time we meet. We'll have CDPH here on site. We'll ask the Department of Environment also to join us. And then we'll get a few of these questions answered from CDOT in terms of signage. We'll get 1 month's notice before any work begins on the site. And we'll look to schedule something, seems like in the next month would be appropriate. Oh, is there another question? Sorry.
Three
New questions. Sorry, thank you. I don't have eyes in the back of my head, but I was not looking down. Okay, sorry. Let's go look at these. Oh, Claire, thank you. And we'll make sure you get the information. Claire's responsible for Park 571 and Jackalick. So for both of those, and Claire, if we need to work with the park district to get some sort of like, covered bulletin board or something up at the playground, we can certainly look to do that. Okay, Emily, not sure if this was answered. Yeah. Yes, it will be remediated to residential levels. And you didn't hear this earlier, but I would love to see this space be an extension of the park. So definitely want this to be available to the public. I'm not in favor of any residential development in this area. It's beautiful waterfront property there that should be made available to everybody. Will the remediation plan be made available to the public? Yeah, we'll share a link to their application on the EPA's website. We'll share the deck that was presented today as well in the newsletter. So all of this will be made available to you. I think that was it. Did I miss anything?
So I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
On the, regarding it becoming a park and that kind of process, looking at, we call it the Goose Island overlook, process that got Park 57, which is another MGP site, the process that got 571 to become a park. What was that like in comparison in the timeline of where this is at versus how those other ones kind of transferred into kind of public assets?
I definitely can't answer that question. I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, I know this, like for Park 571, it was like 2006.
Yeah.
It was when the remediation occurred. I think the park then was 2012, 14. I'm not like,
16, I think.
6, okay, yeah. So I honestly,
It was
as I said,
part of a completely different project. There was supposed to be a whole series of parks that all along the river. It was under Ron Emanuel, and this was the last one that got built. And there was supposed to be 2 to 4 more to connect, and then that never happened.
For the folks that are online, just in case you couldn't hear, that was Kevin Hickey just giving us a little bit of the play-by-play, because he's been around for all
Well,
of
the
it.
the rowing was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Before the park was built, before
yeah.
the.
Right.
The Genie Gang designed buildings, that was, forgot the name of it, Chicago, Training Center or something was doing that, Montana Bush, it's a Maggie Daly project. Go back to
So-
2000.
Yeah, I was rowing out of there. It was
2001,
disgusting.
2002.
So it sounds like it might have been a 10-year process from the time that the site started remediation to the time that a park was actually built. I can
No.
give you the, no?
No. Well, the remediation was 2006.
Yeah.
It was done
It's
by
finished, yeah.
oh, it's
So-
finished. I thought it was started. Okay.
Park was built in 2012, 13. I'm sorry, yeah, 16.
Do you know when they started construction on that? Do you remember how long that took?
Yeah, because the 2016 rowing season needed to be moved to what was then Grant Crowley's
Yeah.
boatyard, so I don't think they
Which is
broke
now-
ground until 2015. And then it was open for rowing 2017.
Didn't take long to build.
Okay, because we're trying to build Donovan Park Fieldhouse over here. And I've, once there's shovels in the ground, they're saying that's like an 18 to 24-month process. So
Remember, half that park the building is just 4 walls. It's
yeah, yeah,
do it.
yeah, and this,
3 walls.
yeah.
3 walls, yeah, 3 walls and a bunch of doors.
Okay. I think we've answered all the questions. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, guys, for being here. We've got some follow-up actions. We'll work with Kate and the other organizations, Canada, you as well. Oh, yes, of
What
course.
organization does Kate work with, and like, can you put what the information she has for developing that spot? 'Cause
Oh, yeah,
don't
we
think
can
we're
share it.
aware of
Yeah,
that.
Kate's part of the McKinley
Yeah.
Park Development Council. Do you want to explain what that is? Kate?
Absolutely, I'm happy to introduce, so hi, I'm Kate, I'm Director of McKinley Park Development Council, and we are advocates for the McKinley Park neighborhood. Last year, we published an infrastructure plan for the Chicago riverfront that will include bike and pedestrian infrastructure from Western Avenue to Pingtown Park along the river. And so that does include our existing parks, basically this plan capitalizes on Chicago's existing ordinance that anytime there's new development on the river, that development must include public access and bike and pedestrian paths. What's different about our plan is that it's the first time this was viewed as an infrastructure requirement as opposed to an access requirement, and those are really different. I have a hard copy of the plan here in my backpack, and I was going to show these folks, and you're welcome to join us once we break.
Yeah, and we'll send links. I mean, I can
It's also
absolutely.
available on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do a
include
we'll
that,
do a
like,
little ad for
website kind of
MPDC
thing.
in the next newsletter, like, just as like a trailer to the rest of this. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody coming and your question. If you have questions afterwards, do feel free to reach out. Oops. I don't need to share anymore. What did I just do? I paused the recording. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to stop sharing. Did someone have another question that I missed? Okay. All right. For all of you on Zoom, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to close down the meeting. We'll upload this to the newsletter and to our YouTube channel, so your neighbors can view this later if they want.
Do you have any organizations?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.